This is CNN Breaking News.
You are live in the CNN Newsroom. I'm Monica Cabrera in New York. Our breaking news is out of Hollywood, where disgraced movie mogul Harvey Weinstein has just been expelled from one of the most prestigious groups in the industry, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, the people who award the Oscars. The news comes after at least 4 women accused Weinstein of raping them. Dozens more, including many well-known actresses, are alleging everything from harassment to sexual assault. Weinstein denies the allegations, saying that through an attorney, he believes all the encounters were consensual. We now have a statement from the Academy Board of Governors, which includes these famous faces: Tom Hanks, Whoopi Goldberg, Steven Spielberg. They say, quote, "We do so not simply to separate ourselves from someone who does not merit the respect of his colleagues, but also to send a message that the era of willful ignorance and shameful complicity in sexually predatory behavior and workplace harassment in our industry is over. What's at issue here is a deeply troubling problem that has no place in our society. The board continues to work to establish ethical standards of conduct that all Academy members will be expected to exemplify." So let's bring in senior media correspondent Brian Stelter. And Brian, we talked a little bit earlier that in the past, the Academy has not taken this move despite other allegations, even convictions of misconduct against others.
That's right. Roman Polanski is still an Academy member. Woody Allen, still an Academy member. Bill Cosby, still an Academy member. But this time, this moment is different. And I think it's partly because this country is evolving pretty quickly, thankfully, on the issues of sexual harassment and assault. There are times, decades ago, where we would not have seen the Academy take this kind of action, where the women who have come forward in the past 9 days would not have been supported the way they have been. You think about in the past, there was this idea that women would sometimes be shamed if they were to come forward with allegations of harassment or assault, or they'd be told that's the price of working in Hollywood. Well, no more. We are seeing this Board of Governors of the Academy trying to make a statement that that will not be tolerated, that if that era was ever in the past, it is not present today. You think about this on the heels of the Roger Ailes scandal, the Bill O'Reilly scandal. I think we're really witnessing a change in American culture, in the relationship between men and women in the workforce, and what it means to have powerful men in these companies, in this case the Weinstein Company, who thought they could get away with something for a long time, and hopefully that is now ending. So the Academy here making a bold statement by saying he is persona non grata, he is out of the Academy. We've never seen a lifetime membership revoked in the midst of a scandal like this. And the reason why I think it's such an incredible blow for Harvey Weinstein personally is that his name was synonymous with the Oscars. You know, this is the organization that puts on the Oscars, and he was famous for Oscar campaigning, for helping stars like Gwyneth Paltrow make their way to the Oscar stage and win awards. So Harvey Weinstein is being reprimanded, being rejected by the group that he was really synonymous with for decades.
Right. Yeah, somebody on Twitter said he is Hollywood. He's not just being rejected now by Hollywood. He is Hollywood.
Now he was Hollywood.
A good point. What about his Oscar?
He apparently will still hold on to his Oscar statue from 1999 from the movie Shakespeare in Love. It's unclear, though, what happens in his future. You know, what's he going to do if he's not a Hollywood film producer? Right now, he's apparently seeking therapy. His advisors have been unclear about exactly where he is or if he's really in rehab or not. Seems to me like he's been in denial about how serious this is on. He's talked about wanting a second chance from Hollywood.
Right.
But this announcement in the past hour would indicate there is no second chance, at least from the Academy, for Harvey Weinstein.
Ryan, stay with me. I want to bring in a couple of other voices to continue the conversation. With us is CNN legal analyst and defense attorney Mark Garagos, as well as Rachel Sklar. She is the writer and co-founder of Change the Ratio, which aims to increase opportunity for women in media. Mark, I have to ask you this right off the bat because you've defended some pretty big names who have been vilified in the media. We've got Scott Peterson, Michael Jackson, Chris Brown. I have to ask, has Harvey Weinstein reached out to you?
If he did, I wouldn't answer it. But
really?
I will tell you that right now there is, when Brian starts to talk about the people who are still members and then that they've expelled him, it shows you exactly kind of the culture shock that is going on. I mean, when you've been actually convicted like Polanski has and you're still a member, yet here he has not been convicted of anything yet and he's expelled, it is kind of a watershed moment in Hollywood.
What makes this different to you, though? I mean, even what you just said, if he called, you wouldn't take that call. You wouldn't be his advisor.
Well, no, I didn't say that. I wouldn't tell you if if he had reached out. I would.
That's what you were meaning.
Even if you have an ethical duty to not disclose those kinds of things. So I would not answer that question. But I will tell you that yes, my advice would have been to not do what he's done so far. What he's done so far has been literally a blueprint for come indict me or come file charges on me. It's astonishing that with the caliber of legal talent around him that he's acted out in this way, but I think that's probably part of his problem or psyche to begin with. And a lot of times I've run up against it. I'm not saying specifically here, but a lot of times alpha males, when they're in the crosshairs, have a real tough time heeding the advice of their lawyers, especially criminal lawyers who generally tend to be in a one-off situation. But he does have criminal exposure. I mean, anytime that you've got a district attorney like you do in New York who's actively advertising for other victims, that is a very troubling thing, and you just need to act accordingly. And so far he has not heeded, I'm sure, his lawyer's advice.
Rachel, I think that kind of leads to the next question of, this isn't just about sex, it's about power in some ways, it seems.
This entire thing is about power. By all accounts, that was not only what Harvey Weinstein wielded in order to get away with this for so long, but the charge that he clearly got from doing it. It was a clear abuse of power, a clear exercise of power, and he was so incredibly reckless, as though he was just trying to test the waters. This was pathological behavior, but Mark mentioned alpha males. I can't tell you how sick I am of alpha males trampling all over women in order to get what they want. We have seen this behavior over and over. We've mentioned Bill Cosby, we've mentioned Roman Polanski. These are allegations. Woody Allen, they're allegations. And we also have allegations, but many, many, many of them, against the President of the United States, Donald Trump. This all happened a year ago with respect to him, in terms of many, many women coming forward with stories that are frankly very similar. When I read the accounts of Harvey Weinstein coming out in a bathrobe and propositioning women forcefully, it reminded me of Summer Vervos and her accusations against the current president. So it's wonderful that we're seeing a watershed moment, and it's wonderful that we're seeing change. And I'm glad the Academy acted, but there is a giant elephant in the room, and yes, it is, and the elephant pun is apropos, because the GOP has, they elevated this guy. So, I'm waiting for it to move on up.
So you obviously were referring there about elevating this guy. That wasn't Harvey Weinstein you were talking about. You were talking about the president. But let me go back to Harvey Weinstein. And Brian, the paparazzi caught Weinstein as he was leaving town. Let's listen to what that exchange was.
Yeah. Thank you.
Guys, I'm not doing okay.
You're not?
I'm trying. I got to get help, guys. You know what? We all make mistakes. Second chance, I hope. Okay?
No problem.
Thanks, guys. And you know what? I've always been loyal to you guys. Not like those that treat you like I've been a good guy.
So that was the second chance comment you alluded to earlier. He says he hopes he gets a second chance. It seems like everything's going the other direction.
Yeah, he's actually been saying it several times. I was amazed he said it in that clip, because he said it on day one when the New York Times investigation came out 9 days ago. He's been saying ever since that he's hoping to get a second chance and that he's going to rehab and getting help. But I got to tell you, there's no indication that he's off at some sort of secluded rehab facility. The sense I have is, yes, he might be seeing therapists, he might be talking with doctors, but he's been resistant to how serious this is. And I think if anything comes of this today, it's the Academy saying the era of shameful complicity, the era of willful ignorance is over. I'm really struck by that language. It's a lot stronger than it had to be from the board of governors that lead this organization. They are saying essentially there was an era of willful ignorance. Yes, people were complicit in covering up Harvey Weinstein's behavior. We're embarrassed by that. We want to make sure it never happens again.
So, there's that statement, but Mark, the bottom line is this guy has not faced any charges. The NYPD, however, in Scotland Yard, we now know, are investigating some of these claims against Weinstein. How likely is it that he will be charged?
Well, look, it's always speculative, and I hate to set odds on somebody getting charged. I also feel like in the one place where he's got real jeopardy, it strikes me, is in New York. New York, you're within the statute of limitations. Arguably, they can use that 2015 incident as a like crime evidence, similar to what happened with Bill Cosby in his trial. They've got active another accuser. Whether that accuser is cooperating or not, it's been reported in a gray area. But that is where he's got real jeopardy, and that's why I keep saying he needs to be heeding his lawyer's advice if he's got a lawyer in New York, because he has real jeopardy in a case like this. And I remember it wasn't that long ago that we were talking about Cosby before he was charged criminally, and he was doing some things that didn't make a whole lot of sense, and we're almost inviting a prosecutor somewhere to charge him. And remember, when you've got this kind of public wellspring of at your back, if you're a prosecutor, it's not that hard for you to go out on a limb and take a chance and now prosecute somebody criminally who's public enemy number one.
Rachel, I saw somebody say this is simply Hollywood now trying to sweep Harvey under the rug. I wonder if it's a missed opportunity that they didn't not just make this statement, but then institute some changes that make it easier for women to come forward in the future, some protections for accusers.
I think that would be great. I think we're going to see a lot of change, and we have seen incremental change already, but I am wary of making Harvey Weinstein and his abuses, Bill Cosby and his abuses, the standard that must be met before anything happens, because there was a lot of room for bad acting over decades on the part of those two, certainly, but the stories that continue to emerge, and it's not just in Hollywood. It is, there's a activist model named Cameron Russell who, posting on her Instagram account, anonymous messages from people in the fashion industry about abuses and violations time and again. We just had this kind of scandal rocking Silicon Valley. This is endemic to the defaults in our society, which believe men hold women to a higher standard and just sort of look the other way and assume that, gee, if it's all white men at the top, that just must be how it's supposed to be. And it's not. Harvey Weinstein, all the headlines over the past few hours have been how he was booted out of the Academy, and great. But how many women never even got the chance to even come close to the Academy because he cut their career short, or men like Harvey Weinstein cut their career short? I think there has to be a greater understanding that there is a completely different pathway for for people who have default privilege, usually straight white men, and everyone else who encounters roadblocks of at de minimis unconscious bias, but often a lot more severe roadblocks like Harvey Weinstein standing in front of them between the doorway and a potted plant.
All right, Rachel Sklar, Mark Garagos, and Brian Stelter, thanks for the thoughtful conversation, guys.
Thanks.
Coming up, 5 minutes in hell.